Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm glad you could join me today. Today we're going to talk about the worst books that I have read that people recommended to me and there was a high expectation for, but I felt were really just like not cool books. And so I'm going to warn y'all about those and let you know what I thought. So I hope you learned something from this video. I hope that y'all are surviving in quarantine because it's day like 4,365, I think. It feels like it's so long. I decided to actually like put on makeup and do my hair today because it just felt like it was going on for so long and I was not getting motivated and everything. So I'm glad I did that because it makes you just like feel so much better. And I hope that you're reading some of the books that I gave out in my last video. So as I was editing, I felt like I needed to add a little disclaimer in here before we start, just saying that there are a couple of these books that are bad books that I would not recommend, but there are actually a lot of books in here that I just personally didn't like, and it's okay for you to like them, especially like Ishmael. That is a classic book that's good and I really did want to like it going into it, but I just personally didn't like it. So I just wanted you to know that I'm not saying these books are terrible books and being immature about them or anything. So let's go. So the first book is one that's actually required for school, at least if you're homeschooled. It seems to be like a really common one that people read, and that would be Johnny Tremain. I'm sure you've probably heard of this one. It seems to be an American classic about a boy who is going to be a silversmith and he's an apprentice, but basically the whole story is one of those books that you just get to the end and you're like, what is the point of reading this? Like, he gets this injury, he burns his hand while he's doing the silver stuff, and he can never use it again, and basically he just loses his job, can't do anything. I think he's like engaged to someone and then it ends up they can't get married. It's before the American Revolution and everything leading up to that, and the Tories and Whigs and all that, so I think it's recommended because it's a historical fiction book about the American Revolution time period, but it's just so pointless. Like, he works half the book to get up to being this great silversmith, then he burns his hand in silver, and then that's it. Like, he's done. And I talked to other homeschoolers who have read this and they were like, yeah, it's a pointless book. I don't get why everyone likes it. So if you like it, please let me know why and what you see in it, because I don't understand. The next book that I read for school, everyone recommended to me, is The Well of Sacrifice. It might sound weird, and it is weird, because it is about the Incas and how they would do human sacrifices to their god. And if you want to read a graphic book about human sacrifice and like tearing people's hearts out, read that. But yeah, if you're that kind of person, I'm not really sure why you're watching my videos, because that is not the books I want to read, and I did not like that book at all. So I definitely would not recommend The Well of Sacrifice if you are reading it for school. Just probably you could read the Cliff Notes and write a paper on it. You could read other stuff that would tell you about the Incans and Mayans and all that. Another book that I really did not like, and it's not recommended for school, it's just like a fun fiction book that a lot of people said that they like, is the Redwall books by Brian Jack. It's about like mice who live in castles and stuff, kind of like medieval, but with mice and moles and all that. I did not like that. I have Salamandastron, which is written by the same guy, and you can see it's like a badger on the front, and I've never really gotten like the whole talking animals thing, talking badgers and bunny rabbits and all that. It's just not really my thing. So I know a lot of people like this, but I didn't really like it. Okay, one that so many people like, and I really do not get this one, is The Phantom Tollbooth. And I read this when I was probably like 12 or something, but it's about this kid who goes through, he goes through a toll booth to this other like world, and it's very similar to like Alice in Wonderland kind of world, but it's so like fantastical, and that's just not really my thing. Like, I like Alice in Wonderland, so not really sure why I like some of these fantasy books but not other ones, but I did not like The Phantom Tollbooth because I felt like it was just too weird. But so many like adults have told me that this is their favorite book, so I don't really know. It's just, I guess it's just not my thing, that kind of writing and just the weird things that happen. Okay, one that if you guys like Harry Potter, you have probably looked into this book and thought that it would be a good book to read and it would be fun. And there was a lot of anticipation coming up to the release of this book, The Cursed Child by J.K. Rowling, and it was supposed to be like a sequel to the Harry Potter series, happened like many years later about some of their children, and everyone looked forward to it. I remember it came out just a couple years ago. It was so exciting and everything, but then when it came out, it was just like a big disappointment because it was just boring. It's just a script, it's not a book, and it just was not as great as everyone thought it would be. So it's not a terrible book, like it's okay, but kind of like Johnny Tremaine, not as terrible, but it's just like once you get to the end, you're like, what was the point? We didn't really like get anywhere, especially in The Cursed Child. You're like, they do time travel and they mess up the time travel, and that always like freaks me out that like when they're traveling in books, they're going to mess up something back in time. So I did not like The Cursed Child, and I wouldn't really recommend reading it. Like, the actual Harry Potter books are way better than this, so not really anything. Okay, so some of these I feel bad like saying that I don't like them. I'm not saying you shouldn't read them. Some of them actually do have good value to them. It's just that they weren't my thing and I didn't really like them. So I don't know if a lot of you have heard of this one. It's called Ishmael by Eden Southworth, and they're published by a company called Lamplighter. And no, not many people have heard of Lamplighter books, but for some reason so many people have heard of Ishmael, and then there's a sequel called Self-Raised. And so many people like these books, and I'm not really sure why. Like, I read it and it was an okay story, and it was great that there was like faith and stuff in there. I just didn't get the like why you would like it so much, because there wasn't like this great thing that happened at the end. It was just a tale of kind of a kid growing up in rough circumstances, and then he grows up to become a lawyer, but it wasn't like a super inspiring story or like one that just made you feel so good inside. It was just kind of like, oh, look what he did, moving on. I didn't like Ishmael that much. So if you like this one, let me know what you thought about it, because I'd really like to. Sometimes I don't like books, and then whenever I hear something that like really good about them, like, oh, now I see like the redeeming quality in it, and then I really like it. So if you can point out like a really big major reason why you like Ishmael, please let me know, because I'd like to like it, because I like a lot of Lamplighter books. I just didn't. This one is a classic, and if you watched my last video, which if you haven't, here's the link to it, and you go watch it right now. But if you watched that one, you saw that I really like Jane Eyre. It is my favorite book, and it's by Charlotte Bronte. But her sister, Emily Bronte, wrote a book called Wuthering Heights, and I had to read this for my English class. And if you like Gothic literature, it is very Gothic. And it is also very depressing and sad and just very weird. Like, it's about a girl who is really like just crazy, and she falls in love with this boy whenever they're younger, and he is so rebellious and just a crazy child that they picked off the moors of England. And then they can't end up getting married. She gets married to someone else, but then they continue like loving each other even after she's married. He's just like, he is so evil and terrible, and there's not really like a resolution to the story. There's not like a, oh, you know, he was actually good, or he was punished for his wrongdoing or anything. It's just like he was a terrible person and all these creepy things happened, and then it ended. So I did not like Wuthering Heights, and I feel like not a lot of people like it, but I just thought I'd mention it as I was going through my bookshelf and found this book that is meh. So those are all the books that I don't like. If you want to see some books that I really do like, check my last video out about the best books that you should read during quarantine. They're really good books that I love, especially Jane Eyre. I already mentioned that one's really fun. I just thought I'd warn y'all about some books if you're looking into reading books. Those books that I just mentioned were ones that I personally didn't like. If you have any that you didn't like, let me know in the comments below. If there's any that you feel like there's a common expectation for them to be really good, but then they're actually not really good when you read them. So let me know what you think. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications so that you'll know when I post a new video next Friday.